5:01 p.m. This is the public meeting of the City Commission of the City of Brownsville pursuant to Chapter 551, Title 5, Section 551.041 of the Texas Government Code of the Texas Open Meetings Act. Notice was given that the City Commission of the City of Brownsville would conduct a regular meeting on Tuesday, November 3rd, 2020 at 5 p.m. via the WebEx teleconference meeting link by logging on at the link provided at the City of Brownsville Agenda Center. The members of the public wishing to participate in the meeting hosted through the WebEx teleconference can also join by phone as provided on the Agenda Center. Members of the public who submitted a public comment form will be permitted to offer public comments as provided by the agenda and as permitted by the presiding officer during the meeting. A recording of the meeting will be made and will be available to the public in accordance with the Open Meetings Act. It is 5:02, Mayor, and you can call the meeting to order.
Okay, I'm going to call the meeting to order. Thank you.
Okay, I just want to verify we have Commissioner Cowan, we have Commissioner Galonsky, correct?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, Commissioner Munguia is here, the mayor is here, Commissioner Gowan, Commissioner
Present.
and Commissioner Nee.
I'm here.
So everyone is present.
I'm also here.
And now we can have the invocation. Pastor Brad Burks, are you present?
That's a surprise. Okay, he's usually here.
Yes, sir.
Morning.
Commissioner Tetra, would you like to do the invocation?
I would love to. Okay, let's bow our heads in prayer. Dear Lord, we ask you to give us strength today in our meeting, and we ask you to guide us to always make the right choices and do the right thing for the people of Brownsville. We ask you to strengthen our city. We ask you to guide our government through these uncertain nights tonight, through our election. And we also ask that you bring peace and justice and calmness across our nation and provide comfort and certainty towards our future. Lord, we ask for strength to always do the right thing for the people of Brownsville. And at this moment, I'd like a moment of silence so that everybody can include their own prayer. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
The next item is proclamations. We have a proclamation for Small Business Saturday, which is November 28th, 2020, the Saturday after Thanksgiving. This is sponsored by Mayor Mendez and Commissioner Cowan. Mayor, would you like to read it, or would you?
Sure.
Like
I'll go ahead. A proclamation of the City Commission of Brownsville, Texas, designating Saturday, November 28th, 2020 as Small Business Saturday. Whereas the government of Brownsville, Texas celebrates our local small businesses and the contributions they make to our local economy and community. And according to the United States Small Business Administration, there are 31.7 million small businesses in the United States. They represent 99.9% of all firms with paid employees in the United States, are responsible for 65.1% of net new jobs created from 2000 to 2019. Whereas small businesses employ 47.1% of the employees in the private sector in the United States, 62% of small businesses reported that they need to see consumer spending return to pre-COVID levels by the end of 2020 in order to stay in business. Whereas consumers who plan to shop on Small Business Saturday said that the day inspires them to go small, independently owned retailers or restaurants that they have not been to before or would not have otherwise tried. Whereas Brownsville supports our local businesses that create jobs, boost our local economy, and preserve our communities. And whereas advocacy groups, as well as public and private organizations across the country, have endorsed the Saturday after Thanksgiving as Small Business Saturday. Now, therefore, we, the members of the City Commission of the City of Brownsville, Texas, by virtue of the authority vested by the Charter of said city, and on behalf of all of our citizens, do hereby designate Saturday, November 28th, 2020 as Small Business Saturday, and further call upon the citizens of Brownsville to support local small businesses and merchants on Small Business Saturday and throughout the year. Done on this third day of November 2020 by myself and the rest of the City Commission. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have a presentation from the Charter Review Committee, an update, and we have the Chair, Michael Gonzalez, and the Vice Chair, Patricio Sampaio, to do that presentation.
Welcome, gentlemen. Michael, whenever you're ready. You're on mute.
There we go. Well, thank you, Mayor, City Commissioners. I want to thank you all for this opportunity, this invitation to discuss the progress that we have made in the Charter Review Committee thus far. I'd like to take this opportunity to provide y'all kind of a timeline of what we've done so far, and also hopefully have a projected time in which we will be able to finalize everything and present our findings to you. To begin with the timeline, although we were all, I think, pretty much all appointed mid-December, we didn't really get started until mid-June, obvious complications with the COVID pandemic and all. But when we got started, we really got started. And the first few meetings, of course, were organizational. We set up a timeline for the next, what we thought were 6 months. And so early July, we asked the City Council for their insights regarding certain issues that they found important in the city charter, potential amendments that the City Council would, maybe suggest. And we obtained that insight from a majority of the City Commission. And so with that, we began brainstorming and created some of our own suggested changes. We really got going August, September, and October. That's when we took a deep dive into each proposed change, and we prodded and poked and figured out which ones weren't going to make it, and came down to what I want to say 3. I don't want to speak too soon. We have not finalized everything, but we believe that we will be able to bring to your attention some changes. Also like to note that it was late October when we opened up some time for the directors of each department. That has been such a positive experience. We've gone through one. They are noting procedural differences that run contrary to the provisions in the city charter. And also the general theme, as Patricio probably can explain as well, that we find a lot of antiquated language and budgets, actually. But they have been great at bringing that to our attention. We want to, going forward, leave some time open for other directors to speak up and let us know what they find. And going forward, we lost about a month. The timeline changed a little. We still think we can get it done. But the proposal, I hope we can get it down to the point where we have kind of a draft of the language, which we're going to be working on. We'll set up some special meetings to try and accomplish that. And with that said, I want to say the new deadline is December, sometime in December, mid-December, I think. We will have something to present to you all. With that said, if y'all have any questions.
Mr. Gonzalez, if I can, you mentioned that there's going to be about three topics that you had discussed. You're liberty to kind of, I guess, elaborate on that a little bit, or?
Sure. And again, Mayor, I don't want to speak too soon because there's still issues within the committee that we haven't worked out. But
Okay.
I think that Patricio and I, we both believe that inserting a certain sense of direct democracy into the city charter has been received really, I think, with open arms. Correct me if I'm wrong, Patricio, but having some kind of citizens initiative and a citizen referendum process, which we don't have yet, and every big city seems to have something like that. So we are really excited, and we have a lot to work with within that realm. There's a lot of examples throughout the state of Texas that we can rely on to edit the language. That's big. That's my personal one that I want. But the next one is the possibility of, if you will, constitutionalizing the Audit and Oversight Committee. The details, again, are still not worked out, but if we, and by the details, I mean who appoints the members, how big, how many members, but that being a suggested change, that it become part of the city charter. The third one, which we think possibly could make it, is term limits. That one's exciting. We all know the power of incumbency. However, believe it or not, there are so many examples throughout the state of Texas. How much time is too long? We had the clerks, without getting too far into the weeds, we had the city secretary give us a timeline of the longest running city commissioners, and that seemed to for some people in the committee say, well, seems like the voters kind of decide that without having a regulation on point. But we're still working through it. Let me make this other note, that our presentation in December will also include issues that may not need to be in the city charter, that actually could be accomplished through ordinances, and then slow roll it to refine it through the ordinance process, and then eventually maybe it make the city charter. That process may be something that y'all want to consider, but we're going to bring some issues that we think may need that slow roll process. But all in all, it's been a very positive experience. The members, my God, they're so respectful, and we all entertain each other's ideas. It's been very positive, and we're really looking forward to presenting the findings in December.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Michael and Patricio, for your work.
You're welcome. It's a pleasure.
I'd like to thank him also. It's a big commitment. So my hat's off to both the Chairman Gonzalez, Vice Chairman Sampaio, and the rest of the committee.
Thank you.
Thanks. Anybody else have anything?
Yeah, I'd just like to add, again, my thanks to the committee for all their work. And then just to confirm that that mid-September date is sufficient time to put items on the agenda to the commission, and then also promote the items and get it onto the ballot. So I just want to make sure that fits in line with everyone's expectations at the city level.
Yeah, it's December, but I hope that we can get it done. I really think that we can get it done down to the language level, but we may need to paint with kind of broad strokes on some of this stuff. We got about a month, but we're going to do our best.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a quick question before we move on. What was the longest serving city commissioner that's ever been?
I don't recall the exact name, but was it 16 years, Patricio? I was going to go back and look at that.
I don't recall, but I think the city secretary probably has that information from the minutes, so they can look that up and circulate it for the commission.
I think that should be in the hands of the voters, but
They told me it is Commissioner Longoria who had served the longest.
Oh, well. Okay. Yeah, he was probably 16 years or something.
I think I remember 16 years being the number. I wasn't sure who, but
Yeah. All right. Sounds good. Thanks a lot, guys.
Our next item is the public comment period. We have one comment, a public comment form that was received from Eugene Fernandez of 4700 North Central Avenue, Brownsville. Wants to discuss the Montezuma Cypress crisis. Eugene, are you present? Okay, yes, I see.
Gene, you're on mute. There you go. You got 3 minutes, man. Thanks. Gene, you're on mute again.
How's that?
There you go.
So I'm good now?
Yep, you're good. Welcome.
All right. Probably no need for an introduction on me after 13 years of dealing with this particular program of the cypresses. When we last talked, I made a presentation before commission there in April of last year, mind you. A lot's happened since then. There was a lot of urgency connected with my meeting last because I had reported that there were 10 cypress trees of great magnitude that had died as a result of no water. I'll just go through briefly the background of all of this. And then the next report, not long afterwards, was that there were 12. I know that Mayor was really shocked at that figure, and I can see why. Then the next reporting was actually probably within the next month, I found another one. So that's 13 at that point in time. Since that last meeting and my last update, there have been 14 of these great trees that are gone at 200 years each. That's quite a gathering of beautiful trees that has left us. I spoke with PUB today and with one of the people that is in charge of PUB, and they said that, no, this is off the agenda. You know, there's no further update on from any side, and we know why. And also, I tried to get some kind of a determination of what Corps of Engineers was doing, because I was very, very pleased at our last conversation where you were aware of the crisis. And I think our unified thought on that was, well, my heavens, if Army Corps is not coming in until 2021, and mind you, that we went during the SpaceX thing, prior to all this, I think it would be wise, these are your words, I think it'd be wise if we could find out some manner by which we could slip some water in there in order to save these trees. I commend you for that thought. And I guess the purpose of my speaking to all of you right now is plainly, please, let's have some indication of this being placed back on the agenda. If it's a conversation that needs to take place with PUB, whomever, we cannot depend upon the yearly rain contribution because we've seen what has happened over 8 years, all of those that are gone. So please put it back on the agenda, whatever it may take. If there's anything that I might get involved with, I'm available 25 hours a day, 8 days a week on this. So just don't hesitate to reach out. There's another side issue very, very briefly, and that is with TxDOT. Some of you might have gotten the message from Ramiro that TxDOT by accident chopped down 2 100-year-old plus trees on the TxDOT right-of-way over the elevated expressway. We're dealing with a separate issue on that.
That's time, Mayor.
I got it. All right. Thank you. Gene, thanks a lot for letting us know, and we'll try and formulate some sort of plan of action. I know Commissioner Galansky was probably out there in the last couple of days looking at it, so let's see what we can do about that.
And I have to tell you, Gene, that I am absolutely like stunned, and you just took my breath away knowing that those trees were chopped down. That's a travesty. Unacceptable. I think you're on mute.
Commissioner Galansky, were you going to say something?
Sorry, I'm having audio difficulties, but no, just I went out to the Cypress Preserve yesterday. I noticed one tree was fallen. TxDOT, I guess we didn't really know what could happen, but overall, they seem to be doing okay.
Well, thanks,
I invite
Jean.
everyone to go out there to see for themselves because it is a beautiful place. And most
Oh,
people
yeah.
don't know about it.
Yeah, it's really nice out there. Gene, thanks for putting it back on our radar. If it happens again, let us know, please. All right, Laura, next item.
Our next item is consent agenda, items 1 through 3.
Do you have any motions?
Motion to approve?
We have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those
Aye.
opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Mayor, I'm going to log off for the next item.
Okay.
Yes,
Commissioner.
just for the record, because of prior filings of a possible conflict, Commissioner Tetro will not be participating.
I understand, Council. Thank you.
Our next items are items for individual consideration. Item 1, approval on second and final reading on ordinance number 2020-1675, granting a franchise license to Republic Services Incorporated, a publicly traded company, for residential waste management services, as well as certain recycling services, based on the terms and conditions recited therein. This is from the city manager's office.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, City Commission, Jose Perez, Procurement Division. Based on our last City Commission, I know it was the request of Commission to bring back an analysis of some of the regions. So this is our regional market analysis for residential solid waste. Next slide, please. So as you can see here, we actually took a very good analysis of various cities. As you can see, some of those are actually in-house and some of those are outsourced. These are all the different price points that we would like to share with you as requested. Now we do have another slide as well. I don't know if we want to wait another 30 seconds or a minute, or do you have any questions on this one?
I mean, the summary is we're the only one that's lower than us is Edinburgh, and I think one other one. We're a lot less than McAllen and Harlingen, right?
Yes, Mayor.
Okay.
And what we also did is we decided to take an average, next slide please, of the in-house rate and the outsource rate. And here's how we compare to both of those. The combined, of course, 17, the in-house average rate, we're looking at 18, outsourced, we're at 15.8, and the city of Brownsville is currently at 16.62. With a second bin, of course, included, we're looking at roughly 22 for the city of Brownsville, which is still below market compared to all the others, whether you're looking at it in-house or outsourced. Then next slide, please. And that concludes the presentation. It was really just the analysis, Mayor and Commission. If you have any other questions, we'd be happy to answer.
So you only compared cities, you didn't compare vendors, is that correct?
Correct, Commissioner. Now, some of those do have the same vendor, and some of them, again, would be in-house services.
Right, okay. But we don't know which city has which vendor, and we do know which ones are in-house or outsourced, right?
Right, and I believe actually City of Wesco also has Republic Services, if I recall correctly, and potentially Rio Grande City. However, we felt that this would still give us a good regional analysis as we're looking at some of the largest cities, including City of McAllen, and the closest neighbor to us, which would be City of Harlingen.
And at the last meeting, Mr. Perez, we had already approved, or we didn't necessarily approve, but there was a recommendation that the commission did approve regarding different options. Are those options going to be presented again? What do you need at this point then from us?
No, Commission, no, Mayor, at this time. I believe it was some additional modifications, which included option 1, recycling, which was a 40-cent increase to the rate. So that's not included in here as we're exploring the base rate independent of that.
Okay. So then that 40-cent rate is going to be that's what was approved the first time, so then it would be what would be approved if this passes, correct?
Yes, Mayor.
Okay, very good. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Pettis? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
We have a motion to
Second.
approve and a second. Any additional discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Those opposed?
I'm gonna
Madam
abstain.
Secretary, note that I abstained on the vote, please.
I'm sorry. Commissioner Gillespie, go ahead.
Sorry, I'm gonna abstain too because I'm not really happy with Republic, but they were the only ones that really went through the process of applying for the franchise. So it really just kind of ties our hands to just one choice. And I
Okay.
wish that there were more choices.
So Commissioner Gillespie is abstaining. Commissioner Neese, I didn't hear your vote, sir.
Yes, I'm abstaining as well.
Okay. So then the ayes, it's going to be myself, Commissioner Cowan, Commissioner Gowan. Were you an aye? Okay. Is Commissioner Munguia here?
Aye. Yes, sir.
Okay. So the ayes, that's 4 ayes. Council, that's sufficient, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Motion passes. Thank you.
Item number 2, consideration and action on the 15th amended declaration of local disaster for public health emergency, city manager's office.
Good evening, Mayor and Commission. This is Helen Ramirez and Deputy City Manager. Can we go to the next slide? I'm going to go over the changes. We are being consistent with Cameron County with regard to curfew hours. So they're continuing in effect between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. for those 17 years and younger, and 12 a.m. to 5 a.m. for 14 years and older, also adults. To be consistent with Governor's GA 32, bars and similar establishments are at 50%, and there are noted TABC and other recommendations and requirements from the Department of Health Services. City parks, as part of the Park and Recreation Department reopening plan, the city will pilot the reopening of park amenities, and that's playground equipment in one park per district. And we will publish the 4 parks. We want to make sure that they're ready to go and identify which of those parks will be available. Next slide, please. And regarding business event organizers and their employees and employers, which is basically people they contract with, are allowed, provided that they follow the governor's orders and the minimum health protocols checklist standards. And that's particularly like if you have a party of 10, you'd have to be separated by at least 6 feet from another different party of maximum of 10. So it really goes into maintaining distances, signage, disinfection, sanitation of the facility, and follow through. And then the last bullet point that Ms. Dr. Rodriguez included was adding a provision where we're allowing areas of high hospitalization rates as defined by the trauma service area that has had 7 consecutive days in which the number of COVID-19 hospitalized patients as a percentage of total hospital capacity exceeds 15%. So if our numbers worsen until such time that the trauma service area has 7 consecutive days in which the number of COVID-19 hospitalized patients as a percentage of total capacity is 15% or less, a current list of areas with high hospitalizations will be maintained at the website. And it really, what it says is if our numbers worsen, then we have the ability to decrease occupancy from 75% to 50%. So not only in that particular case in which our cases are considerably higher and exceed that 15%. And Dr. Rodriguez, if you have questions, he can speak to that bullet point. But basically, in this case, we are looking for another that these measures would be in place until December 1st, 2020. So would it be additional, a little under 30 days from today's date? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ramirez. I did have a couple questions. On page 5 and 6, I saw a couple discrepancies, and I just need to clarify. Actually, before I go into that, the business event organizers, you're talking, is that specific to event halls? Is that what this was for?
Yes, my understanding,
Okay.
and Dr. Rodriguez, can you speak to that? My understanding it is.
Okay.
It is, Mayor.
Okay, that's what I thought. I just wanted to clarify that one point. And then I did see on page 5 and on page 6, it refers to occupancy limits of 50%. My understanding at this point in time is because we're not one of the trauma service areas that's above the threshold, that we should be at 75% occupancy on that to comply with the governor's orders. Am I correct? And if so, is that meant to be 50% in our order, or was that just an error and it should be 75?
Well, this is consistent with the county's order. So when the county it's an opt-in provision. So my understanding that the county, I pretty much took their 6th amended
Well, that's on bars. That's on bars, though. The opt-in is on bars. Not, my understanding is the opt-in isn't on the occupancy at other businesses. But
Oh, okay. I didn't know page 5 has.
yeah, page 5 talks
Item-
about every business establishment shall operate at no more than 50. And then it also talks about restaurants on page 6 at 50. But my understanding is at this point in time, because we're below the threshold and put in by the governor, that the occupancy based on governor's orders at this point should be 75. Am I right? And if so, then that probably needs to be edited on these.
Mayor, if I may assist, I believe we have a catch-all at the end of the declaration.
Okay.
Which allows for a catch-all in case something like this gets through. If it becomes not in harmony with the orders of the governor, it automatically trumps ours. So
Okay.
we have that catch-all provision.
Okay, very good. Then, Councilor Lynn, you're saying it's fine as written then?
I think we can always fix it, but in case we miss something, we have that provision that allows us to remain in harmony with the governor's order.
Okay, very good.
And I just want to remind people not to be trying to give out medical advice, or anything, but just something I noticed is that there are massive surges right now in the European countries to the fact that they're already back on lockdowns. I just want to remind people that just because we got through the second wave doesn't mean there can't be a third or fourth. So it's something we have to be really, really careful with.
Absolutely correct, Commissioner. We've been good up to this point, but it can always turn back the other way. And I know we're staying vigilant. I mean, we monitor this daily. So thanks to Ms. Ramirez and everybody else that's been involved in this. Dr. Rodriguez has been great monitoring everything and enforcing all this. So thanks.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Mayor and Commission, for all your hard work. That's a big part of your leadership.
Okay, does anybody have any questions or concerns?
I do. Just curious, which is the park and district one that will be open?
Do we know yet, Dr. Rodriguez, or is that going to be part of a plan that's going to be developed?
We're working with the Parks Department, and they will identify. Commissioner, I certainly would ask us to work with our Parks Department as well to identify those parks within those districts.
Right, and we will also reach out, the director will reach out also to commissioners and also get your opinion and your preferences if you have one.
That's what I was going to suggest. Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
I had an additional comment. I'm happy to see the parks beginning to reopen. I didn't think it was very equitable with the bars being open, but our playgrounds being closed. It just didn't sit well with me, and a lot of parents reach out to me on that, and I'm glad that we're going in that direction and doing it in a safe way.
I agree.
Thanks. Okay, if there's no other questions, I'll entertain a motion.
To approve?
We have a motion to approve in a second. Any additional discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Note my abstention, please.
Okay, Commissioner Niesel abstain. Thank you.
Item
Thank you.
3, consideration and action to select a site location for the permanent relocation of the Neal House from the Texas Southmost College campus as budgeted. Planning and Redevelopment Department.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the commission. We're bringing forward a presentation to allow the commission to provide staff guidance on the relocation of the Neal House. Juan has prepared a PowerPoint, and I'm going to let him go through that PowerPoint, and then I'll be glad to answer any questions the commission might have. Juan, are you there?
Yes, sir. I'm here. Good afternoon, Honorable Mayor, Commissioners. As you know, the Neal House was built before the American Civil War, and it was a house of William Neal, even when he was mayor of Brownsville in the very early 1860s. To complicate the potential moving of the house, the rear was designed by Ruth McGonigal, that it was the first female architect to be graduated from the Rice University. Next slide, please. These are the options you can see to the left. Option number 1 is located on a lot, on an empty lot facing Madison Street, and just adjoining the parking, one of the parkings at the police station that the police department has there. We will, if this option is chosen, we'll encroach a little bit the parking of the police department, because the width of the house is slightly bigger than the lot itself. It has 52 feet, therefore it's needed a kind of encroaching there. The option number 2 is located in Palm Boulevard and East Jackson Street. We are considering this option because it's the lot belongs to the city of Brownsville. Finally, the option number 3 is located in the Middle Cultural District, and it will be located just beside the Stillman Ranch. We have a kind of 2 options there, facing or the central path or the side one, and another one that is just rotating the house in order to have a correct orientation of the windows designed by Ruth McGonigal. Next slide, please. This is the comparison between the 3 options. You can see that the first one is a little bit more expensive because we should have to buy the lot, and it costs, or the property is asking right now, $80,000. On the second one, you can see the historic context of the neighborhood, even when it's a little bit far from the original location of the Neal House. The one that is more approachable from an historic point of view is the one facing Washington Street. The adaptive reuse, any reuse can be done in any of these locations, so that's fine. And finally, the one that we consider that could have a little bit more impact while rehabbing is the one located at the Middle Cultural District, because everybody can see literacy more easy. And we could have or receive certain kind of complaints attending to the previous experience with the Stillman Ranch. So if you have any questions, we are glad to answer you.
What do you mean by neighbor impact while rehabbing?
Commissioner, we have enough funding in the first phase of the budget to relocate the structure and place the structure on a permanent foundation. We do not have adequate funding to begin the restoration. So the structure will sit as it is today until such time as the commission allocates additional dollars to move into the additional phases. The next logical phase after relocation and placing the structure on the foundation would be a dry-in phase, kind of a phase 1A, and that would allow us to replace the existing roof replace windows and openings on the walls and doors. That would dry in the building and prevent any additional deterioration caused by moisture.
But Mr.
And then we
Vasquez,
would,
the impact, is it a visual impact or is it some kind of other impact? Because they're just like a block away from each other. They're,
yeah,
you know,
the
practically
visual
the same
impact
neighborhood.
is, the visual impact is it'll sit in its current condition until additional funding is available.
But these are so close to each other, one's right in front of Washington Park. So how are you differentiating between the impact of the two properties?
Well, in the Linear Park is a developed park. It has preserved properties. It has facilities available for the public, and then we would be bringing in a dilapidated structure in its current condition. As far as the other residential site, it's undeveloped. We would be clearing the land and placing the structure in its permanent foundation, and then also be returning to the commission for.
It's right across from a developed park as well, and it's right next to some apartments. And you have to acquire part of the police parking lot to accommodate the house, right?
That's correct. Just we would actually encroach onto the police parking lot 5 to 10 feet.
So just so you are aware, that other house that's there that's so nice and it's a little museum was also sitting in that same state prior to it being remodeled. So it had a history. So anyway, I would like to encourage the commissioners to keep the two historical houses together and, you know, keep that in mind.
My question was about use, and I think that slide now is answering my question. These are some of the things that you've envisioned, but not necessarily set in stone. Am I right?
We'll return to the commission for a restoration strategy along with options. In some cases, historical structures are restored on the outside skin and the building is saved for future use when either someone wishes to restore the structure for use for private activity, or we could approach the project as a complete a restoration and a preservation project, which would then make it available to either city for city use or third-party use through a competitive bid process. So we're not ready to make that decision. We'll come back, work with the commission to find out what the best strategy is and which strategy the commission would like to take.
My only comment is that this is Brownsville's oldest home, and it's been sitting in disrepair for so long. I have to tell you that every day that I've known that it's sitting there in the condition that it's in, it's just a day that doesn't sit well with my stomach. So I would really hope that we could get it into a location, number one, where it's safe, preferably by the police department, knowing the presence that's in that location. And two, that we very quickly look for the funding and restore it to what it should be, because it's truly a gem here in Brownsville. It's one of the most beloved structures, and it's truly a crime to have it sitting in the condition that it's in. So I would hope that maybe we could do something with it where everybody in the community could enjoy it for what it's worth.
I personally don't favor the police department location on Madison because I think it's going to look like it got stuck into that lot, and that's really not very respectful of the dignity of the house. But
well, I meant like linear.
That's just my opinion.
I meant either one.
Mr. Vasquez, is there a timetable for the move? I may have missed that, but that's one question. And then another is, some of these projects in the past have been done in conjunction with a partner like the Brownsville Historical Association that did the ranch house that's at Linear Park now. Have you spoken to them, or have you spoken to any other entity like that that you could possibly partner with to try and save on some of these costs?
Mayor, we'll reach out to the local preservation organizations to see if anyone would like to participate in the cost of the relocation and or the preservation. We're certainly open to that. We have not received any offers to financially participate at this point in the project for the relocation or the permanent foundation, but we will reach out to those groups.
I mean, it's possible you didn't get anything because nobody knew about it. I didn't know about this till a couple days ago personally, and I'm pretty involved in preservation and other stuff like this. So I'm not surprised you haven't received any solicitations because nobody probably knew about it.
Rick, I have one more question. Do you guys have the software? You know how the planning design firms have software where they put a structure somewhere so that you can kind of envision what it would look like in that space. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes, ma'am. We do have
wonder-
that capability.
I wonder if you might consider doing that because you know I'm hesitant about Linear Park personally, and it's just my 2 cents. Only because I don't want Linear Park to feel too crowded. On the other hand, you know, it's a beautiful park and that's a great spot as well. But I would like to kind of see a little more visual of what it would look like in the space that you're proposing.
I'd like a couple of very talented designers on our staff that we could coordinate some illustrations, the development of some illustrations if the commission's interested in seeing a more detailed scenario.
And I will say we did get a lot of complaints when that first Stillman House, Ranch House went up and it was not restored yet. There were a lot of people who were very upset about it being an eyesore in the neighborhood. So I would like to see who's out there and who can work with us to get that restored to the condition that it should be in as soon as possible.
Yeah, that's what I was asking on the timetable, Commissioner, because at that time there was a lot of issues and Linear Park wasn't what Linear Park is now. And if you have a structure like this kind of park there, it's going to be a nuisance in a way and people are going to want to mess with it. And the Ranch House, I think, was probably a little bit more stable than the Neal House is at this point. The Neal House is very, very sensitive right now. I mean, it's very brittle. And that back portion may even come off if you try to move it.
That could be solved.
Talk to Sandy Stillman because when the complaints came in, I mean, he got in there and he got that place where it needed to be right away.
Yeah, and they can fix it off. I mean, there's lots of things they can do, just like it's already been done once. So I'd like to make a motion to move it over to Linear Park next to the Stillman House.
We have a motion to move this to Linear Park. Do I have a second?
Second.
I'll second, but can I add to the motion? I think we need to fix the roof right away because that is in real danger. And so there should be enough money to be able to do both. And Larry Lockwood offered to help in which way that he can, and I'm sure he can also help us reduce costs when possible.
And I accept that amendment.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask. Okay, so we have a motion by Commissioner Neese. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Those
I
in
just
favor?
would like to see a quick timetable with the repairs being done as soon as possible to the best quality available.
I think that's noted, Mr. Vasquez.
And I would still like to see a visual, please.
Yes, we'll bring back a visual. We'll also bring back a budget to take us from relocation to dry-in. And so that way the commission can consider any additional funding that'll be required to place a roof, the windows and the doors and the structure.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Item 4, consideration and action to adopt the rules of procedure for the Board of Adjustment, Planning and Zoning Department.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Commissioners. This is Alan Garces with the Planning Department. Recently, the Board of Adjustment did go over some updates to their rules of procedure. Next slide, please. They had modifications and clarifications. There was some minor grammatical errors, and they are listed here as given to us by our chair for the Board of Adjustments. As you can see also in the packet that was submitted, there are some additions that were given. Next slide, please. And those were in regards to attendance. And they also added a public comment section that was not there before. Next slide, please. These comments, public comment section was recently added and is in accordance with Texas Local Government Code. Because the governing body is City Commission, it does require approval by City Commission in order for these to be officially adopted by the Board of Adjustment. That ends my presentation. I'm available to take any questions at this time.
Do you have any questions? Okay. Do you have any motions?
Move to approve.
We have a motion to approve. Is that, do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Commissioners, have a good one.
Thank you, Alan.
Item 5, consideration and action on ordinance number 2020-1676, an ordinance authorizing the issuance, sale, and delivery of up to $10,500,000 in aggregate principal amount of City of Brownsville, Texas combination tax and revenue certificates of obligation securing the payment thereof by authorizing the levy of an annual ad valorem tax and a pledge of certain surplus revenues to the landfill system, and approving and authorizing the execution of a paying agent / registrar agreement, a purchase contract, an official statement, and all other instruments and procedures related thereto. Financial services.
Mr. Mayor, City Commission? Can you hear me?
Yeah, no, we can hear you. Go ahead, sir.
Perfect. Good afternoon. Thank you all very much for allowing me to come before you through this means. Basically, the item I just read by the City Secretary, item 5 and number 6, are pretty much encompass my presentation. This is an item, as you recall, that was brought to you all back on September the 14th of this year, and that was to fund about $10.5 million of projects that you had presented through your CIP or approved through your CIP. We went ahead and presented this to the Standard & Poor's and Moody's, and both rating agencies confirmed the ratings of the city of a AA by S&P and AA3 by Moody's. If you turn to the next page, I'm sorry, page number 5, for the purpose of being more expeditious, I guess. Right there, thank you. Basically, those are the 3 transactions being presented to you for your approval on item 5 and 6. The one that applies to number 5 is the first quadrant on the left, where basically we are borrowing to fund $10.5 million worth of projects for streets and drainage and hike and bike trail of $500,000. We're borrowing $9,050,000. The bondholders are paying $1,631,000 in premium, and that gets you about $10,681,898 to basically provide you funds to pay for the project of $10.5 million cost of issuance, which not only pays financial advisory fees, but also bond lawyers, Attorney General's office, the rating agencies, the printing of documents, and so on and so forth, and underwriter's discount, which is a commission paid to underwriters, in this case represented by Frost, UMB, and Samco, I believe. And that's the item that comes to you. As you go, scroll to the right a little bit, you'll see the next couple of issues coming before you are 2 refinancings, one that was done on a tax-exempt basis for about $12.5 million, or about $11,295,000 in this case, paying a premium of about $1,305,000. And then scrolling more to the right, there's another financing coming before you for $13,145,000. Those 2 financings were done exclusively to get savings to the city in lieu of how low interest rates were. If you turn real quick to page 6, and I hope that you all have them in your hands, this presentation. If not, I'll be happy to present this. We actually finished this pricing this afternoon around 2:00 this afternoon. City of Brownsville literally was the only issuer in the market in Texas because of the day that we're in today, being election day. So we're able to take advantage of what we believe continue to be very low interest rates. Back on 914, to give you an example, the very bottom row there shows certificates of obligation TIC of 259. That interest rate is what we thought you were going to get back on September 14th. Today, as you scroll all the way to the far right on the very last column or the very last quadrant, you'll find that the rate that we achieved for your approval this afternoon was a 2.32%. When you look at the refinancings that we shared with you just earlier, the tax exempt refinancing of about 11,295,000, which is taking out 12,320,000 of all bonds, is going to save the city about $819,000. That rate basically that we received today was a 112%, and it replaced rates that the city was paying of 3.83%. And that's how you get that savings of 819,000. On the right column, the financing basically is paying off 12,205,000 with 13,145,000. You save 774,000. You're paying a rate of 2.02. You'll be paying at 2.02, and it's replacing a rate of 3.85. And that's what that transaction is getting for you. Page 9. On page 9, basically, this is something we've been working with your staff very closely, and I can't thank enough Mr. Bernal and his assistant city managers, Elizabeth, Bryant, Lupe Granado in finance, Jorge Santillan. I mean, it's been a hands-on project from the start, and basically, this is what I've always referred this as the ugly sheet. It just got too many numbers all over the place. I think what's important to you is that when you read the captions at the top, it talks about the overall debt service of by year of the CIP. You have a pretty significant CIP, and it continues to change due to the planning, due to the new findings of needs. And here in this particular case, what we did with the refundings, if you look on the page, on the column 4, from left to right, that little green column that is there, you'll see that the savings that we're getting you of about $1.6 million, we literally plugged those savings in years 2023 and 2024, where we think your overall mortgage payments of all the other debt that you have outstanding will give you the most benefit in an effort to support additional projects if you were to choose to go for projects. Like, that right now we're talking about a $7.5 million project that may go before the Water Development Board for drainage. We're using a 3% rate. If we're fortunate enough, like we were earlier this year, we may be able to borrow that $7.5 million for 0%. So a lot of it is still out there. But part of what we are doing with staff here is to mirror your debt model with your CIP. The next column, because of interest rates being as low as they are, and basically having property values be what they are, that next column may provide about $40 million of additional capacity for your CIP. That's how strong the market is, and that's how strong the city is right now as it pertains to your debt model. And then the next column, the not takeout, it pertains to the city about completing the terminal, the airport terminal. That's about $8 million that we've contemplated for a while now that may have to be taken out and fixed. At the end of the day, when you look at the very far right-hand column or the second column from right to left, you'll see that you're able to do all of this with the tax rate not going anywhere. Right now, for 2021, the tax rate going forward for this year is 25.51 cents or 0.2551. And if you were to do all this other stuff, your debt model is set up in a way that for the next 6 years, the tax rate will remain at 25.5 cents and it won't go anywhere. And I think that's kudos to a lot of people that work on these projects and taking advantage of a very favorable interest rate environment. So with that, I'll stop. This financing, if approved tonight, will close on or about November the 18th. So I'll be happy to entertain any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Hinojosa. Is there any questions?
Yeah, this 8 million is part of the 10.5 that's going to be allocated to the airport, or is that a separate bond?
That is a separate bond, sir.
Okay. So, because I see one for 10.5, one for 11.6, and one for 13.1.
Yes.
Okay, so this is something you're trying to set up for the future for the airport.
That is correct,
Okay.
Judge. Yes, sir.
Okay. And is there a way to, like, rather than sustain that 0.25, to
Yes.
try to ever reduce it?
Yes. If, in fact, if you go over to page 7, if you were to choose to do nothing, no drainage, no CIP, no note payoff, the tax rate could very easily go from 25.5 cents to 22.98 in 22, to 21 cents in 23, to 20 cents in 24, and so on and so forth, as you can see on the second column from right to left.
I don't think it would have to be all or nothing. I mean, in other words,
Of
some
course.
project, can be prioritized in order to reduce the debt. This is what I
That-
mentioned last time. We should try to reduce.
Yeah, I think, yeah.
Tax rate.
Yeah, I think, Noel, you want to jump in?
Yeah, just a quick note, Commissioner Neese. This is great news. When I got here a couple of years ago, our capital improvement program needs were about the same that they are now. But there wasn't much capacity. And if you recall last year, when we restructured the entire debt portfolio to take advantage of the favorable interest rates, and that created at that time $30 million of capacity. We issued 10 in fiscal year 20 for a variety of projects. And this is additional capacity that we've now created because of the growth in the tax base that we've had over the couple of years, but also the restructuring plus the favorable interest rates that Noe's talking about. So because we've had a strategy these past 2 years, we now have flexibility that many other cities don't have. And to your point, if we wanted to shave off some of the tax rate, we can do that and still have resources to allocate to our capital improvement program. And what we're going to do is pick it up as part of the 5-year forecast. So here in around January, February, we'll start reconvening to update the 5-year forecast. And when we have those discussions, we can look at this and discuss with the committee and then with the commission as a whole and run different scenarios and say, okay, where's the CIP, where's the debt model, and what would the commission want to see us potentially do with the tax rate?
Okay, Noel, I'm not criticizing your work. I think you and Mr. Hinojosa have done a great job getting a handle on all this. I'm not criticizing it, but
No, this is just
little
for the
text where it's like sustain at 25, so that's when I feel like I should say something, to try to get reduce in there, that word.
Oh, absolutely. No, I'm not taking it as a criticism. I think it's a great question. It's really a policy decision, and it's a kind of a philosophy about how to approach finance. This year, we shaved off a 1/4 cent off the M&O side of the tax rate. We have the option to do the same on the debt side of the tax rate, and that's something that we can take up with the budget committee and the commission in these next few months. But no, I wasn't taking it as a criticism. I just wanted to give you an answer about kind of where we are and where we have options.
So the last thing is that it seems like the only allocation out of the item 5, 10.5, is allocated to hike and bike trails. Are the other 10 million already allocated according to that list we got last time? Or is
Yes.
it open?
Those are allocated. When we presented the budget, we also went over the capital program. So what we have programmed for the next few years is there's $4 million for streets.
Okay.
This year we have the landfill. You all approved the landfill gas collection system improvements. We have heavy equipment. We have new front loaders. and stuff like
So
that.
it's allocated, it's just not like open for spending, it's already.
No, no, no. It's all capital improvement. It's for fixed assets that have a life that matches the life of the 20-year payback period.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Any additional questions? Okay, looking for a motion?
To approve.
We have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Those in favor?
Nay.
Aye.
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 I'm gonna vote nay just because of the allocation at this economic hard times about the bike and hike trail. So I'm voting nay on this one.
Okay, Commissioner.
The rest of it I agree with, but it's not put in that form, so.
Okay, I understand. So with Commissioner Neese voting nay, the motion passes. Thank you.
Item 6, consideration and action on ordinance number 2020-1677, an ordinance authorizing the issuance, sale, and delivery of approximately $11,630,000 in aggregate principal amount of City of Brownsville, Texas, general obligation refunding bonds, Series 2020A, and approximately $13,185,000 in aggregate principal amount of City of Brownsville, Texas, general obligation refunding bonds, taxable Series 2020B, securing the payment thereof by authorizing the levy of an annual ad valorem tax and approving and authorizing the execution of a paying agent / registrar agreement, a purchase contract, 2 escrow agreements, an official statement, and all other instruments and procedures related thereto. Financial services.
This is again consistent with the presentation earlier. And this was just for savings.
We have any questions?
I'll move to approve.
We have a motion to approve from Commissioner Neese. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, members of the commission.
Thank you,
Stay
Mr. Mendoza. Take care of
Stay
yourself.
safe. Bye-bye.
Mayor, I just want to make a quick comment for the public that polls for voting close in the next 15 minutes. You still have time to go vote.
Thanks, Commissioner.
David Betancourt.
Item 7, consideration and action to award bid to Central Air and Heating Services for the installation of a global plasma solution for the HVAC system for the new terminal building at Brownsville South Padre Island International Airport in the amount of $87,430, Airport Department.
Good evening, Mayor, Honorable Mayor and Commissioners. Brian Walker with the City Manager's Office. This is being presented and funded, presented by the airport and funded through CARES Act funding. This is a health and wellness sort of initiative to upgrade the systems that are currently being installed at the new passenger terminal. So this is more effective than your IR light filters or anything. So this is an ion, and I don't know the details of it, but it's some sort of ion generating filter system for the entire terminal. So we're recommending that it get funded tonight and installed in the terminal.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Is there any questions? Okay, I'm looking for a motion.
Move to approve.
We have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 8, presentation by the Office of the City Auditor of a review of a land acquisition by the Greater Brownsville Improvement Corporation, referenced as the Orestes and Shades properties. City Auditor's Office.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. We conducted a review of the land transaction that was acquired by Gibic. Our initial objective was to determine whether the transaction was made at arm's length and absent any related parties, to determine also that it was made for reasonable value based on the appraisal of the property, and to determine whether it was approved by the board, and whether the transactions were in furtherance of the purposes of GBIC's Economic Development Initiative. The results of our audit, nothing came to our attention to indicate that the purchase of the land was not at arm's length or was in any way a related party transaction. And we have no knowledge that would suggest that the price paid for the purchase of the 3 tracts was in any way significantly at variance with the market value based on the 2 appraisals that we received. I believe everybody has been given a copy of we circulated a copy of the report. And the only thing that we couldn't determine was whether at what point and in what meeting the transaction was approved, the land transaction. Anybody have any questions?
Did you determine the ownership of the parties involved on the sale?
Yes, the ownership, it's documented in the report. The ownership was that the property was transferred to Provest. The previous owners, we went to the appraisal site for Cameron County, and it only goes back to 3 previous owners.
Who owns Provest?
Provest is a service. It's a company out of, I believe it's Delaware. I don't think there are any related parties for anybody here in Brownsville. It's a service that they provide a service for legal for attorneys.
So you haven't determined who sold the property to GBIC because you don't know who owns Provest.
It's
So
the
you can't
Delaware
know if they're related or
Corporation.
not.
Sorry?
You can't know if they're related illegally in this transaction if you don't know who the people are. For example,
Well,
that own Provest.
What I'm saying is that I'm giving negative assurance that nothing came to our attention to indicate that there was a related party transaction. We went back and we looked at the previous owners in the 2 properties. One was a construction company several years ago, and the other one was a food service company. We didn't come across any related party transaction.
Mr. Zucchini, I have a couple questions or some things that are of note in the report. You discussed right now that there was nothing you found regarding this not being an arm's length transaction. You also discussed that there was nothing to show that the price paid was more than what the appraised value was. But something that concerned me is that in your report, you also mentioned that there was no evidence or no finding that the board actually conducted their own appraisal. Is that right?
No, we got 2 appraisals from certified appraisers.
Okay, was that done by the board or was that received by the seller? Do you know?
That was the seller engaged the appraiser.
Okay.
But it's a certified appraisal company.
And was there an appraisal on both of these tracks or just one of the tracks? Because it looks like your report shows that there was only one appraisal for one of these properties, and then you just went ahead and based the total value on that first appraisal, even though not all the properties were appraised. Am I right on that?
No, initially, we only got one appraisal, but I pressured Mr. Lozoya, and he was nice enough to go ahead and contact the previous owner and get the second appraisal.
Okay, when did you get that?
Yeah.
When did you get that?
Appraisals done prior to the sale? Because you got them afterwards, right?
I got a copy of the appraisal. I got a copy of both appraisals after, but the appraisals were done before the sale.
The commission was only provided with one appraisal from the seller during previous, I guess, deliberations on this. So I'm kind of confused how there were other appraisals when Mr. Lozoya denied that there were any. He's the one that said there weren't.
Well,
So,
I can't speak to what Mr. Lozoya said. What I can tell you is that in the initial appraisal, there was a memo from Mr. Shell, who was the previous owner, in which he engaged the Holland and Associates, the appraisers, to do two appraisals, for a property for tracks 3 and tracks 1 and 3. And when I saw that, I compelled Mr. Lozoya to get the copy of the second appraisal, which was done by the same appraisal company. So both in the report, there is a breakdown which shows the total cost, the total appraisal value, and I believe that the price paid was less than the total appraisal value of the combined appraisal for the property.
okay, and so the track 2 did not have an appraisal. There was one for 3 and one for 1 and 3. Is that what you're saying?
No, there were, let me pull it up here.
I thought it was one for 3 and then one
no,
for 1 and 2.
There was an initial appraisal for track 3, and that was $1,378,000. I didn't have a copy of the second appraisal, but I talked to Mr. Lozoya, and I kind of pressured him to get a copy of the second appraisal. The second
What
appraisal
tracks were
covers
that for? What
tracks 1
tracks
and
was
2.
the second one for? What tracks?
The second one covers track 1 and 2.
Okay, all right.
If you look at
And do you
page
think
2
it's
of the
appropriate
report,
or
it's a
good?
breakdown.
Do you think it's good practice for them to take the appraisal of the seller instead of getting their own appraisal?
They could have got their own appraisal, but it's a certified appraiser, and as far as I know, it should be okay.
Well, the question was, do you think it was prudent for them not to use the seller's appraisal?
I think the seller's appraisal is okay, provided it was done by a certified appraiser, which it was done.
Mr. Zucchini, I have a question. In your review, did you find any evidence of any negotiation to purchase this property or these tracts?
I asked for some information about the negotiation, and I was not able to ascertain who was actually involved in the negotiation.
I believe you, in your report, it mentions that Mr. Lozoya initially said that their legal counsel at the time, Mr. DeCos, did the negotiation on behalf of GBIC with the seller, and then
that was not correct.
You spoke to Mr. DeCos, and he said, no, Mr. Lozoya did the negotiation, and then he went back to Mr. Lozoya and he changed his statement to you and said the board did the negotiating.
Yes,
Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes.
And do you have in your report any proof that the GBIC board approved the negotiation and purchase of these tracts? And
No,
did the city commission approve the purchase of these tracts and expenditure?
No, I don't. We weren't able to ascertain that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I actually wanted to touch on that subject too. And there's a discussion of this in one of the paragraphs. It says, we cannot find any evidence that the purchase of the land was appropriately approved by the board of directors. In fact, the opposite may be implied, as GBIC could not identify and provide the minutes of the meeting in which approval, if any, occurred. Additionally, GBIC chose to involve their attorney to prevent examination of a recording if any, of the executive session for any of the meetings which GBIC provided copies of the minutes to. We subsequently inquired of Mr. Pruneda whether he could tell us if there were any recordings or certified agendas of the proceedings of closed sessions for the Board of Directors minutes we received from Mr. Lozoya. He replied that GBIC staff advised that there were none located. So then there really isn't any proof that the board even approved this transaction, is there?
No, there isn't.
Okay. So then how did you find out that this got done? Who approved it? Who went forward with it? I mean, what did you find out in that regard? If the board didn't approve it, who approved it?
Well, we weren't able to ascertain that.
Mayor, could I ask that we make the report a part of the record, put it in the minutes of this hearing?
Absolutely, Commissioner. Council, is there a method to do that?
I don't see any issues. Is that the will of the commission?
Okay, is that a vote or is that just something that is requested by one commissioner?
Well, it is, that's what the action item is, the presentation. I just want to make sure the actual audit is included in the record.
Okay, very good. I'm fine with that, Council.
Is it common practice to not keep a record of this type of thing? There's no recording, there's no minutes, there's no this, there's no that?
No, there should be minutes approving the purchase of the. I wasn't able to find that.
I just want to say that this was during the time that I was on the GBIC board and about to step off and resign, and I was not at any of those meetings during the purchase of the properties. I did see, though, that there was an Exhibit 4 in this report, which were the minutes of something purchased in 2018, and it did not stipulate what that was. I want to just go on the record and say that I am very extremely against purchasing properties after the Casa de Nylon debacle. And the reason that the 2018 property was purchased was, just for the record, only because it's in this report, and it did not clarify because it was an executive session item. It was a property that was purchased from CDBC that the city commission directed us to go purchase because they came to the commission wanting residential zoning near the sports park. And I believe at the time the commission chose to keep that an industrial area. There was some type of clashing, and they were going to do a residential development on that area in 2018, and it didn't work out because GBIC needed it for this industrial park. And so that was Exhibit 4. Everything was to the T by the book, and it was done at the request of the city commission. So I just wanted to make that very clear. But I was not part of any of these other purchases. I have no idea. I couldn't answer anything if anybody asked because I was not there.
As I recall, the CDCB was about to complete a purchase. We had passed the first reading, and they were going to come in and do the second reading. And so then Mr. Lozoya came in and sidetracked the second reading, and they were literally going to be there the next Monday, to break ground and start doing the residential development. And
That's correct.
The story was they needed that property that we're talking about that was purchased, and they needed to get 1,000 acres for a steel plant. Okay, so it turned out that the steel plant chose to go to Corpus instead of stay in Brownsville, and yet they still purchased the property after being notified that the steel plant was not even going to be here. So they pushed it through, and the weird thing is that there was 2 transactions, and that's why, Mr. Zucchini, I don't know, in less than a month, that tract sold twice. And you would wonder, why did those 3 tracts not get sold directly by those owners to GBIC rather than go to Provest and then to GBIC? I mean, to me, that's just like a red flag, and it's hiding things. It's obfuscating it, to use your word, which I like. But that's my recollection.
The 2018 purchase had nothing to do with these other properties. It was completely separate. And I think that's getting really off topic. I'm just explaining the background on Exhibit 4.
Well, I think all these properties at one point were to try and collect 1,000 acres or something. I think that the CDCB property was needed in order to complete that acreage, if I'm not mistaken also. I think I just happened to be at the commission meeting during one of those times that it came up. But regardless, I do have a lot of concerns about this transaction. And Mr. Zucchini, I think there's a lot of things in your report that you didn't touch on. So I hope that the commission read it and went through it like I did. And now that it's going to be part of the record, I'm glad that at least the public's going to get to see a lot of the issues that were raised with this transaction, and that those questions get answered in some fashion.
If no one else has anything to say, then I guess we move to accept the report into the record.
Is that a motion, Commissioner?
Yeah.
Okay, we have a motion to accept the report into the record. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Zucchini.
Yes, Mr. Zucchini, thank you for your hard work. That was quite a report.
Okay, next item is going to be executive session this morning.
Yes, executive session. Item 1, closed session pursuant to section 551.087, subsection 1, Texas Government Code regarding commercial or financial information that the city of Brownsville has received from a business prospect that the governmental body seeks to have locate, stay, or expand in or near the city, and with which the city is conducting economic development negotiations, and to deliberate financial or other incentives to the same regarding Project Epsilon, planning and development. Item 2, closed session pursuant to section 551.072 of the Texas Government Code regarding the lease of real property if deliberation in an open meeting would have detrimental effect on the position of the city of Brownsville in negotiations with a third person, and pursuant to section 551.087 of the Texas Government Code to deliberate financial or other incentives to a business prospect the city seeks to have relocate within the city in relation to the lease of land and provision of financial incentives for Project Zeta, City Manager's Office. Item 3, attorney consultation pursuant to section 551.071 of the Texas Government Code to provide legal advice and counsel in connection with the rights, duties, privileges, and authority of the City Commission for the City of Brownsville, Texas, to remove and replace one or more members of the Board of Directors for the Greater Brownsville Economic Development Corporation, formerly known as the Greater Brownsville Incentives Corporation, a Type A corporation organized under Chapters 501 and 504 of the Texas Local Government Code and related legal issues. City Manager's Office.
All right, do I have a motion to go into executive session?
So move.
We have a motion. To have a second?
Second.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? All right. We'll now convene to executive session. Thank you.
It is now 6:29 p.m. and we will go into executive session. Action on items discussed in executive session. Item number 1 was consideration and action to authorize the city manager to enter into a Chapter 380 economic development agreement related to Project Epsilon and to execute any pertinent documentation for its implementation. Planning and zoning, planning and redevelopment.
So I'll make a motion that we allow the city manager to execute a contract giving the components of this contract a 50% tax reduction over a 3-year period. You think that'll do it, Mr. DeCoste?
I think it does. And they'll still bring the 380 agreement for final approval on it.
Very good.
Well, we understand that this would be the final approval, so the document would be the action to approve this agreement, which would be a 50% tax, property tax abatement on city taxes for that 3-year period.
So then the only thing you need to do, Commissioner Neese, is authorize the city manager or administration to sign the final agreement as stated by you.
That'll be my motion.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Oh, wait, hold on. Do we need to cover the other item, council, or?
Yes, it can either be tabled or passed.
We're going to pass it, as I remember.
Yes, so item number 2 then will be passed. Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
We have a motion to adjourn and a second. Any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? We stand adjourned. Y'all have a great night. Everybody watching, have a great night. Thank you.
1 p.m. and the city commission meeting has ended.